Hi, Matt with etrailer. Today we're going to be talking about the front runner front fairing for your Slimline II rack. We'll be talking about how it's going to really install on your vehicle, and then be talking about some of the features it's going to offer you. So let's kind of start off with those features, and right off the bat, I just really want to show what kind of fit we're getting right now. This is going to get you something more like a custom fit for your vehicle. And what's nice about this is because the way this contours to your roof, it's not like what comes standard on your vehicle. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but it's going to really make contact with your roof. And we have this rubber strip that goes across, so you're going to get a good seal here, and it's going to make it more adaptable. Because you'll notice this actually raises up and down because this is on a bracket that's able to contour to different types of roofs, so it should work for most people. And when you want that really nice snug fit, all you have to do is press down on it and you get this seamless design. And as you can see on here, if we compare the new fairing compared to what comes with your platform, there is a huge difference there. One, this is going to really contour to the roof of your vehicle, and the other one, you're still going to have a decent gap, about 2 inches underneath there, which really isn't doing that good of a job at being a wind fairing. So this is going to be a major upgrade for you. And what's nice about this is it's not going to add a lot of weight to the front of your vehicle. Now it looks pretty sturdy, and it is, but it's also going to be made out of aluminum, so it's going to make it a lot more lightweight, just easier to handle up on top of your roof. Now in my opinion, I think this is a great upgrade to your front runner, especially when you compare it, like I was talking about earlier, to what comes standard on the Slimline II. Now the biggest thing is when you're installing it, there's a couple ways of approaching it. You could install it on your roof. That's the way we're going to do today. Or you could take off the platform and do it from the ground. Now I'm actually going to recommend that's going to be a much easier way of working, because you're going to have to really get up on top of your roof, and it can be a little bit difficult sometimes. But once you have that installed and you've used it for a little bit, we'd love to hear what your experience is and really how it compares to what came standard and how your experience is now with this upgrade. But without further ado, let's jump into that install. First thing we want to do with the installation is remove our fairing on our platform. I already got one side removed, but it's going to be the same process on either side. So we're just going to grab one of our Allen keys. Now sometimes they might work with different sizes, but the big thing is you're going to be using a metric Allen key for that. So just kind of go through your tools and make sure you have the correct one. And I'll start kind of working on this. And to find these bolts, they're going to be underneath this beam right here. There's going to be one on either side. I'm going to try to line that up. Try to do this either just with an Allen key or a ratcheting one is going to be ideal, since this is going to be kind of tight underneath here. Just got to find where that bolt is. And once you find that bolt, it might take a second. You can start working on it. It really won't take too long. Now, the one on the corners, they're going to be pretty much completely in there. So this will take a few seconds for these. But once you get to the bolts on the interior, they're just going to be kind of slotted in. So you usually only have to loosen those up just a tad bit until you can take off this wind fairing. And coming over here to the center. Again, probably just have to turn this a few times. Just be careful. Make sure this doesn't fall down, because you could scratch up your roof. And like I said, it's just going to slide off because it just slotted here in the center. And now we can start installing our new fairing. And going up top, we're going to have another bolt that's going to be holding these corner pieces in place. Now, you could just only remove one side. I'm going to remove both sides, so I'm not going back and forth as much. Be a little bit easier. This one usually will stay consistent, and this is probably going to be a 4mm bolt, so just make sure you have an Allen key to work with that. Usually only takes a few turns. This one comes off pretty quickly. And there you have it. It should be loose enough to take off. Just be careful when you remove this. It may fall on you. And now we have access to this little groove right here from either side. And that's where we're going to be installing more of our hardware, and our brackets is in this location right here. And moving over to those brackets, there are going to be 4 of them. And there's a few things we need to make sure. And we need to make sure we're going to put it in the right orientation. So we're going to have the spot. This is going to be the one on the front side that's going to connect to the fairing. You notice it only has 1 hole on it. The one on the very top is going to have 2 holes on it. This is going to be the side that connects to your platform. And we want to prep this up some. So what I'm going to do is come to this bolt. There's going to be a cap on the other side on top of that nut. Remove that. Sometimes you can be a little bit tricky to remove because you sit on there pretty tight. Let's get that off. Sometimes you'll have enough room where you can actually slide the head of this bolt into that channel I showed you earlier. Sometimes you don't have enough room. In our case today, we don't have enough room. So what I'm going to do is remove that bottom nut completely. And this bolt is going to come up here to this channel, and it's just going to slide right into place. Get it lined up, and then push it in there. And then you're going to follow that up with this bracket again. Reinsert it into that same hole that we got it from. And then we're going to reinstall some of that hardware. So we're going to start with that washer. Oops, there we go. If it gets pushed up there too much, just push the head of that bolt down. And then I'm going to grab that nut. Get it on there. We're just going to be loosely installing this. Doesn't have to be perfect quite yet. There we have it. And then you can kind of roughly place this where you think it's going to go. Now I already have a couple of them installed already. And you're just going to repeat that process, and then we can move over to the fairing. And something I did real quick now was actually put on these corner pieces back on both sides. And now we can kind of get a good spot for where we want to mount this front fairing. So what I'm wanting to do is make sure that these brackets that we installed are going to line up with these holes. We're just going to want to roughly place this down, and we want to try to get this as centered as possible. So what you could do is kind of lay it up here, measure one side, and make sure it's going to be even on either side. And something I did was kind of mark out where this is sitting at the moment, just so we don't lose our spot, just in case something shifts. So I'll just grab some painter's tape and kind of line it with those holes we have on here. Once we've done that, then we can just lower that down. I want to still keep it pretty close to the top of my vehicle. And what we're going to do is start removing these bolts on the front of this bracket and start installing it to our fairing. And something else we want to do too, before we actually start connecting those, I almost forgot, is to tighten down these little nuts on the bottom of each one. This is going to help it be secured, because once you have everything lined up, trying to reach these nuts is going to be pretty difficult to do, and that's why I recommend doing it now. So we're just going to grab a 13mm wrench. It might shift around on you a bit. That's okay. We'll just tighten it down some like this until this feels pretty secure. Again, I wouldn't tighten it down completely quite yet, just mostly the way. And then once they're all tightened down, you can just double check to make sure everything is lined up, and then finish the job after that. And now we can actually get to those bolts on the front. Now, if you're finding that the holes are still not aligning with those brackets, then you can just move over to this next step first. It might be a little bit easier for you, where we're actually going to remove those bolts, and then we can connect it to the fairing. And you can leave this loose if need be. Just keep in mind, when you do tighten this bracket all the way down, you don't have to reach underneath the platform and tighten it down this way, which will be a little bit difficult, but it is another way of doing it. But from here, we're going to grab our 3mm Allen key, and we're going to remove that. There's going to be a nut on the other side, so be ready to catch that. That's mostly loosened up. I think this one actually stays in place, this nut at least. Yeah, since there's a little bracket on it, or a clip, it won't fall off, so that's good. And we're just going to repeat that for the rest of these bolts up here. And let's start putting this in place. So I'm just going to fold this up. Line up that hole now in the front of it with that bracket. There it is. We're just going to start by hand threading it on there. There we go. Might even lift this up a little bit so I can see what I'm doing a little bit more. And sometimes these brackets will kind of move on you some if you apply too much pressure. You can put your other hand back there to help make sure it doesn't slide on you. And once this hand tightened, then we're going to move over to the next one, and we're going to repeat that same process all the way down. Again, if you need to adjust something, you can just loosen up one of those brackets, slide it a little bit to fit your needs, and then afterwards we're going to come back through with that 4mm Allen key, or a 3mm Allen key, and then tighten these down the rest of the way. And once everything's tightened down, you can kind of adjust it some. What I'll do is just kind of push it down some and make sure that this rubber strip is fully making contact and contouring to your roof. And then I'm just going to grab my little nut covers. If you haven't tightened down your nuts all the way, I'd recommend doing that now. And then you can come back over here and put them on. But once that is complete, then that'll do it for our look at the installation and some of the features of the front runner wind fairing for your Slimline II rack. I'm Matt. Thanks for watching.